Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the SavSocial912 Podcast. I'm your host, Missy, and I have Keith Smith with me, who is the founder of Poor Boys Coffee. And you're going to kind of just talk to me about your journey from concept to getting open and how your vision has expanded. So just to get our listeners on the same page as us, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? You told me you grew up in Savannah. So how did all of this begin?
So I was born and raised in Savannah. I have done a little bit of everything. So I've been all over the board. I've been a barista, a bartender. I've sold cigars. I've been a painting instructor in the past. I did some work as a librarian. I worked in radio for about 3 years. I did electrical work. I've been a car salesman. I started a tour company for a while. I did sci-fi comics. I've been a musician, a little bit of everything.
Seems like you've lived a lot of lives, even though you were very young.
Yeah, it feels like I've lived a lot of lives as well. But after years of kind of dipping my hands into all these different jars and trying all these different things, I decided that some of the happiest times, like the best times I had working, were whenever I was a barista in college. So I decided that that's the direction I wanted to go and just put all my cards into that.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about, like, you've obviously tried a lot of different avenues for working, and then coming back to like something that's fulfilling and you get to interact with like the community and people. You know, some people don't want to interact with customers every day, but I think there's something very gratifying about that.
Definitely.
You're located on the Southside.
Yep.
How has that been kind of like developing your brand and your business? You know, everybody kind of defaults to like the historic district because of the foot traffic, but how's your experience been so far on the Southside?
I live about 5 minutes away from my coffee shop, where my brick-and-mortar coffee shop is, and there's no coffee. It's like a wasteland of coffee. So the closest thing to my house was about a 15-minute drive, and I needed a place. I needed somewhere to put a coffee shop. It was kind of necessity for me after I had a coffee trailer for about a year before we opened the coffee shop. And it was kind of necessity. I had to have a brick and mortar in order to stay in business, just because of the requirements of the city of Savannah puts on food trucks.
Right.
So it just made more sense for me, if I was going to be paying rent on a place, that I'd be paying rent on a place that could actually bring in its own income, rather than having just a kitchen to pass health inspections.
Right. Because also, like, you have to have a prep kitchen that's like separate from your food
if
truck.
I'm just doing coffee.
Right. So, yeah. So do you sell like pastries or anything, or just just straight up coffee?
Coffee, matcha, chai, tea.
You think that would be like streamlined because it's just like a beverage service rather than a full thing? So, like, do you still need to follow the codes?
Oh yeah, I have to have a full kitchen. I have to pass all the inspections as if I were a restaurant.
So what gave you like the concept of doing like a coffee truck first? Because I think that's a really good idea.
I started the trailer mainly because of budget. It was much easier on the wallet to start a coffee trailer than it was to start a coffee shop. And it was a little bit less, kind of a lower risk investment as well. But in order to do that, I had to exhaust a lot of different avenues. So I took out a personal loan. I did a business loan, like a startup loan. I got lucky and got approved for one. They're hard to get approved for. We have no income, you know. I was lucky I got approved for one. I did a lease to own program. I maxed out probably 4 credit cards. And just started this business with about $5-6 grand out of my own pocket.
Wow, good for you. Or, you know, making it happen. So when it came to like designing your coffee truck, is that the right way to say it? Or coffee trailer?
Well, a coffee truck implies that you can drive it around.
Okay.
So I always say,
but you're towing yours?
I have to tow it around, yeah. So it's a little bit different.
So how did you come up with like the design concept of that? Is it something that like people already make like trailers for coffee, or did you have to kind of adapt a design?
I found a company in California that was making, at the time, it seemed really novel, the shape of it. It had this kind of round shape, and I liked that. I worked with them closely, kind of told them what I was looking to do. We went back and forth on blueprints for the trailer. They built it from scratch to order, and then they sent it over, and then my dad and I installed all the equipment into the trailer. So in short, now it's a lot easier because what I'm doing, you can buy it already made. And you can get it with the espresso machine. You can get it with the refrigerator, all that sort of stuff already installed. Though I worry that it's making things a little bit too easy for people, just because you get into that. It makes it feel like you can do it without having any coffee experience.
Right.
And I don't recommend it.
Definitely don't recommend.
Yeah, I was a barista for probably 4 years before anything like this even crossed my mind.
I think you have to kind of have like the at least basic knowledge, like the difference between a cappuccino and a latte, and knowing like when your espresso is like burnt versus, sorry, we're getting into the weeds. You're making my young barista reawaken for my first job. But no, I totally agree that like this is something that you kind of need to have a background in, especially to do it right, because figuring that out on the go is very expensive. So.
Definitely. And it can really hurt to get out of the gate and have a bunch of bad reviews that can kill you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Google.
Start with bad reviews.
Google reviews.
It's so hard to come back from.
Yeah. So as you got going, were you like, obviously having a trailer, you're able to go around town. So were you like going to markets? How were you like getting your clientele?
Getting started was the hardest part. That was hard. As I was able to get around and start doing events, it was easier to force demand or create demand, because people would see me out and they'd say, oh, well, what is this? How do we get this at my business, at my event, at my fundraiser? But to begin with, I did a lot of stuff that was coming out of my pocket. I was losing money for a while.
Right.
Out of the gate. So at one point I was calling up apartment complexes saying, hey, I will come out and I'll make coffee.
Well, that's a great idea.
You don't have to pay me anything. I'll just show up. If anybody wants to come get a coffee, they can come get it. They loved the idea. They were usually pretty willing to do that. So I started out kind of doing that. I had a church that I was working with pretty closely, and they committed early on to once a week having the trailer come out once a week and make coffee for their youth program.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that was really helpful as well, to kind of have that steady stream of income.
Yeah.
And then worked up from there, and it just kind of swelled. So I started doing like markets and fundraisers and coming out to businesses and all kinds of music festivals.
Or aren't there like certain like ordinances of like where you can actually like post up to park?
Definitely.
Yeah.
There are a lot of limitations. And honestly, if I had known how hard it would be and how hard Savannah makes it, if I had known that before I started, I may have never done it.
Yeah.
Honestly. But it's been hurdle after hurdle trying to figure out how to do this legally.
Yeah.
Savannah will let you.
It just seems like irrational to some point.
Yep.
You know?
You're not allowed to be in the public right of way. So that makes it pretty tough. You can buy a single day pass.
Yeah.
To do something like that. But at that point, you're really hurting yourself, because there's no guarantee that you're going to make what you spent.
Well, you're like starting at a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
So I really just haven't even bothered with it. The only way to make it work is if someone owns the land that you're on. That's when it's because then you can have them sign off that you're allowed to be there. The landowner has to sign off that you're allowed to be there.
Right.
And then you can post up and make your money.
Yeah. Well, at least you kind of like have that hindsight now. And a good thing that you didn't get discouraged kind of learning the laws of the land, because
I did get discouraged though.
Yeah. Well, it's fair. I mean, that's like kind of the natural part of owning a business, right? You have to like adapt and evolve. So I just have a few more questions because I'm like a coffee nerd. What variety of coffee do you have?
Yeah, I use a local coffee roaster, Cup to Cup Coffee. They are the people over there, James and Greg, and they're incredible people. They're the ones that taught me how to make coffee years ago.
Oh, cool.
They hired me back when I was in college. I wasn't the best employee.
So that was your first, was this your first barista job with them? Oh my God, that's so cool. How like full circle.
Yeah. So they taught me how to make coffee. I'm sure I made them pull their hair out. I got yelled at a lot by my manager. I wasn't the best, but I did love it. I absolutely loved it. And I took a lot of what they taught me and what I learned while I was there definitely was the basis for what I'm doing.
What you're doing.
Yeah. So that was a big learning experience. And then later on, I went back and I kept a relationship with them, and I use their coffee in my coffee shop now.
I love that. And that's something that I think is very special to Savannah, where like you never know where somebody that you met in the past can like, reappear and you collaborate or all that. So I love how the community, like you come full circle in that way. So is there anything like unique or special about like how you've done your branding and your marketing? Like I found you on TikTok, so we can kind of jump into there. You're telling me a little bit about like your logo and how you
definitely
made it.
Yeah. So I do a lot of illustration in the past. I've messed around with making sci-fi comics or designing bands and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. I've always been in that world, kind of illustration. And I knew when I started this that it was something that I wanted to do, that I wanted to stick with no matter what. So in order to make that make sense for me, it had to be something that I enjoyed. And if I'm going to enjoy it, then it needs to include that creative aspect for me.
Definitely.
So I sat down and I made a list of all the things that I love. And it was mainly like certain video games and certain animated series and old records and all kinds of stuff that then I just boiled it all down and created this skull cup head character.
Yeah.
And ran with that. And in the 3 years that I've been drawing this character, I've got hundreds of other characters in this whole world now, and insane plots and how all the characters interact with each other. And I named drinks after them, and I've got t-shirts.
I love that. You have like a little like metaverse going on here.
Whole world, and it's absurd. It's so absurd. But it's fun for me.
No, I think that's amazing. And we were talking off camera a little bit about like, how hard it is to like market and build a brand. And I think you've done a really good job like pairing your creativity with that. And like there's kind of like an added layer if you understand that like there's certain characters that correlate with your drink special, and that's something that like I think us as locals actually like to follow and get involved with. So I think you're being very smart with that. And there's like a lot of room to grow. A lot of ways to push that out. So definitely give you points for being able to design a logo, because I myself cannot.
Well, thanks.
So as we're going into like the summer, obviously you've been your business is picking up, and you're telling me you have a few events going on.
Yes. In the past, we've really wanted to be a community space, kind of that third space that coffee shops almost always tend to be for people. So we've been trying to lean into that a little bit more this summer. We did it early on. We had a lot of local events. We did Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. We did book club.
Oh, cool.
Yep. We had open mics that we would run. We did a crochet and coffee event.
Love that.
So we're trying to reignite all these things. So to kind of kick it all off, we're doing a street party. We did a grand opening street party in October of last year, and we're going to run the vendors that I had for that event really said they had a great day. They made some sales, and they were kind of pushing me like, you should do this again. So I thought, what better way to kick off the restarting all these events than to just go ahead and throw a big shindig like that again.
Yeah.
So on July 19th, we're going to have probably 8 vendors, maybe more. I've had a few extra, maybe hop on the bill a little late, so maybe like 10 at this point. A bunch of vendors will have prizes, a raffle, discounts, all kind of stuff throughout the day.
Love that.
And yeah, pretty excited about it. So we're going to kick off all the events again. We're going to add a movie night now.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'll be renting like a silk screen.
Got it. Got the projector and all that. That'll be really fun. I also heard you have to like get licensing and stuff. Does that like count for you guys?
So
like our apartment complex can't play a movie unless it's like licensed.
So I like to live in this area of public domain. So I choose things specifically because they have no copyright on them. That's a large majority of what I do, and why like my illustration style is a thing. It kind of harks back to Steamboat Willie and Felix the Cat and all these ridiculous things. And then I use a lot of like Dracula and Frankenstein. I use these sorts of stories in my own coffee themed world.
Your coffee verse.
I just retell these stories because I can, and it's public domain. There's no one to tell me I can't.
No, I love that. Sorry, I like threw you a curveball with that question. No, but I think that that's really cool how you're going like outside of just like having a basic service and like bringing the community in, bringing all these like interesting events, or like really thinking outside of the box. So do you want to let us know like the time and date and location of your event?
So what's cool about it is that it's a street party per se, but it's in an enclosed alleyway behind the coffee shop. So you actually walk into the coffee shop, you walk through the back door, and then now it just opens up into this big market.
That's cool.
It's
almost
really,
like a speakeasy.
It is. It feels very much like a speakeasy, and it's really cool. And I don't know if you've seen the interior vibe of my coffee shop, but it very much gives a speakeasy kind of vibe. Red velvet, like curtains and chairs. But we'll be doing that July 19th. That's going to be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Cool.
And we're going to be running all kinds of promotions throughout it. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're able to come on and kind of share that event and give us a little bit of backstory behind your business, because I think like your story and your journey is very cool, and I hope inspires other people to like not be afraid to do something different. And also just like thinking outside the box with your brand. I'm like very impressed with that. So excited to see what you do next.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, and everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of the SavSocial podcast, and make sure you check out Poor Boys Coffee and your event coming up, and we'll have you back on soon.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Bye.